What is up, guys, and welcome to, I guess, press start. I was thinking about calling it VisualWood. You know, everyone likes VisualWood.
No, don't call it VisualWood because that sounds like vaguely sexual. And everyone knows it, but they say it anyway because they're pervs.
And everyone knows sex sells, dude. Like, listen to our voices.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, VisualWood.
Yeah. So what? We're putting ourselves out on YouTube as like these gay personas. That's like the first thing. That
I don't know, man.
Oh, I'm watching VisualWood on YouTube. People are just gonna think you're talking about gay porn. They really are.
Dude, it'll work, dude. It'll work.
I'll roll with it.
Anyways, I guess this is gonna be like a podcast style. We're just gonna be talking. There's gonna be some random footage in the back. We're just gonna have a good time and just kind of talk about Guild Wars 2. And yeah, and that's what's gonna happen. In
particular, we're talking about the new blog, right?
Yes, the new blog. Well, it's not new. 2 weeks old, as people told me when I put out my video. It's old, Matt. It's old news.
This isn't 2 weeks old. Are we going to be looking at a different blog?
We're talking about the Colin Johansson blog.
Oh, I was ready to talk about a totally different blog. I was ready. Look at the link I just sent you. I was ready to talk about a totally different blog.
Oh,
you've seen this, right?
Oh, you're talking about the Queen's Jubilee.
Yeah,
we could talk a little bit about the Queen's Jubilee.
All right,
but there's not. I guess Why not?
There's a load of stuff on the Queen's Jubilee. The thing is, the blog you're talking about is kind of a high-level blog that ArenaNet put out that outlines a lot of stuff that they're hoping to achieve in 2013 for Guild Wars 2, right?
And two of those are actually in this post.
Well, a lot of it's in this post. It's kind of funny because...
Other than the champion loot and the dungeons?
Well, a lot of what they said for PvP is already going in there. A lot of what they've said about new types of gear is going in there. What they talked about with mini-game rotations, it's all on this post. Like, a lot of what they said in that live stream back then when Colin Johansson put out that blog post, I'm seeing it here already, and it's really weird to me because it's like, oh, this was high-level stuff that's going to be happening in 2013, and we're getting like a good chunk of it just this month in just a couple of days, and that still leaves a lot of 2013 open for what could be happening with the game, to me.
Yeah, it's crazy because when I put out that video about looking ahead in Guild Wars 2 in 2013, like, there's a lot of good stuff there, right? But people think like that's it. That's all that's coming out in 2013. When in reality, they have a lot of stuff planned. This is just like, you know, one of the important things that they wanted to get out there. All this other stuff that they have. I'm pretty sure within all these months until the end of the year, they're gonna think of some other stuff that they can add to it that's already there.
I guess it comes down to whether you're a pessimist or an optimist, I think, at the end of the day. But you can take the idea, right, well, they've got all these ideas for 2013, we're already seeing loads of them, and then there's not going to be much else, and that's it. Or you can say there's loads more, like very large expansion-style stuff that's coming out with the Living Story. Not specific expansions, because they've refused to do that kind of thing, but they do have a lot of big things, but it's under the wraps, and we just don't know about it, and they want to keep it a secret. And it depends whether you think that there's like some big conspiracy, I guess, or some big secret back there. I've got to be honest, I don't know whether there really is, because if they did have a massive feature release, wouldn't we at least see a tiny hint? Wouldn't they be like, oh, guys, we're adding, you know, an entire continent later. It's not an expansion, but we're adding or something like that. Some hint that it exists, because it's that kind of excitement that the community needs to grasp onto to stop being, you know, whining about all the tiny little things in the game.
Right. I'm thinking like back in the beta weekends, I use this example of you saw like the Shatterer in the air, right? In beta weekends, you're like, oh man, we're eventually going to be able to fight the Shatterer, you know? And then we went to Fields of Ruin. No, not Fields of Ruin. The one on top of that. Blaze Ridge, and we fought the Shatterer, and we're like, oh yeah, that was pretty cool. Well, a lot of people don't like it, but it's yeah, you know, it gives an incentive to like, oh man, I can't wait for the next patch, and especially when we're talking about the tent that was in Divinity's Reach. What actually is in the tent? Because now you see the pictures, right? So do you have an idea of what's in the tent? Because I have no idea.
It doesn't actually look like they changed too much. So for people that don't know, in Divinity's Reach, there was a whole district there called the Great Collapse, which has got kind of this weird story that came out from a dev who was talking about how Cantha was never going to be in Guild Wars 2, and that was a representation of NCSoft pulling it and blah 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 blah. I don't know whether I really buy into that anymore, because they've said like they're super happy to put Cantha out. But basically, in Guild Wars 2 at launch until now, you could go to one place in Divinity's Reach, and there was just this whole district had collapsed into this massive sinkhole in the floor. And now in game, it's funny because there was a Reddit thread I saw where someone was saying, "Hey, look, you're talking about the living world. Why aren't things like the Great Collapse being rebuilt?" And then all of a sudden, this patch it is being rebuilt. But now when you go in game, instead of there being a giant hole there, they've put like this giant tarp over the whole thing, and the NPCs are wandering around and basically really looking like they're actually going about fixing it. And again, on Reddit, some people managed to like post screenshots where essentially they just like broke their way into the tarp by like using cheeky jumping skills and stuff. It doesn't really look any different. Like when the game launched, there was a bug in the terrain near the hole, and you could literally, if you were stood in the right place, just fall down. You would just like, there's invisible barriers to stop you falling in the hole, right? But there was just a hole in the terrain anyway that would just make you fall, and then you could scout all of that terrain out anyway. And what I see in the Reddit posts now, even though there's a giant tarp over everything, it looks the same as it ever did actually down there. Like the devs never wanted us to get in the tarp anyway, so it makes sense they wouldn't update it.
If it makes me think is like you fall down there and you actually find some type of hidden thing down there, just like back in was it
the ceiling cat, like
ceiling cat? The ceiling cat as well, and the little dungeon behind that. What's the first dungeon? Crucible of Eternity, right?
Oh no! Right. The first dungeon is Ascalon Catacombs.
Oh no, not the first dungeon. I mean that dungeon in general. When you go behind the world.
Caudicus's Manor.
Right, Caudicus's Manor. There you go. I knew I was saying that wrong.
It was a C.
It was another C. I know. I haven't run that dungeon at all. Like
I was actually thinking about going back there the other day because we were going to get some screenshots of basically trying to do the new Belcher's Bluff achievement in all these weird locations, and I thought that would be a really cool place near Ceiling Cat, but I don't know if you can still get there. But like they need to do that as well. Like, I was playing this is way off topic, but I was playing Ascalon Catacombs as well just to get my daily dungeon. There's so many places in that dungeon that you can go and hide in and just see and explore that is never used in any of the paths of the dungeon or in story mode. Like there's a giant jumping puzzle in there too.
Yeah, and all the way in the back. Yeah, I explored a lot of it, and I've glitched on top of catacombs as well. You ever glitched on top of it, and you could just kind of fall through the cracks and stuff like that? I'm like, what is all this? Like, what is the level designer doing?
There's so much there, dude. It's crazy. And the other big contender as well, I did it pretty recently, is Ara. Ara it's huge, it's massive, it's got so many places, loads of cool points of interest and just region names there that are just sitting about doing nothing. And I really do think, you know, they talk a lot about working on dungeons and sort of even potentially, I think in this live stream we were talking about at the start of the video, didn't Colin actually say something along the lines of, we're looking into completely redoing some dungeons? Like,
yeah.
Just complete. And I think Ara is like a primary contender for that, because everything about Ara feels placeholder. It's got cool mechanics in all of the fights, but they're implemented ridiculously poorly in such a way that a really interesting fight becomes completely trivial and a really boring fight takes hours and hours and hours to complete, or, you know, something ridiculous like that. I feel like they might eventually just totally redo, and all those weird little places we see are currently useless might actually have some meaning. And Ara would be good too, because they could cleanse it, you know, like the story says that ore is going to be cleansed soon, so...
Yeah, they said they wanted to tie it to the living story and revamp the dungeons according to the living story.
Yeah.
They want something to be there that happened, that explain, oh, this is what happened. And they also thought about, I don't know where I heard this. This is bad that I don't know where I heard this, but they're thinking about redoing Zhaitan. Zhaitan. I think I heard this on Reddit. Believe it or not, I went on Reddit. You know how I feel about Reddit. Like, they were thinking about redoing Zhaitan, and that Zhaitan's boss fight was cut short because of the development time. You know,
when it's ready, guys. Guild Wars 2 is gonna launch. Exactly. When it's ready, and oh wait, we pressed 2 to kill the final boss. That was such a shame, dude.
It was. There's no way people were like, oh my gosh, it was awesome, because it was not.
Here's the thing, right? When I was playing that, I was playing it with my guildies. The first time I finished the final dungeon. This is obviously spoilers, guys, for the final dungeon. But I mean, the game's almost a year old. I'm gonna assume some people have finished their personal story. When I was playing it, I was actually really enjoying it. Like, seriously enjoying it. That final dungeon is really cinematic. It's got some really cool ideas as well. The airship at the end is almost a Deus Ex Machina. Like, the story itself is just terrible, but it's really cinematic and it looks really cool. And there could have been a very interesting boss fight going on there that has just been abandoned. It was just terrible at launch. ArenaNet had to accept that it was terrible, and they've just had to leave it there to rot. And it's this horrible stain on Guild Wars 2 right now. It really is, and it feels weird to me that we've got this far and they still haven't updated it. So The idea of revamping story modes in particular that are sort of fire and forget things, they're not really renewable content for the game, to actually spend development time redoing one of those seems kind of interesting to me that they do it. But Zhaitan is the one exception where I'd say, yes, please redo the Zhaitan fight. You know, a lot of people are like, oh, they should just reveal that Zhaitan's still alive. Like, we didn't actually see him die. He just fell down in a Ra somewhere. We'll fight him again.
On the cloud, right? He fell on the cloud and now he's sleeping, right?
Yeah, and in a way, I don't know. I see why that would be a good idea, because then they could put the Zhaitan into an explorable dungeon or make it a part of renewable content or something. But on the other hand, I just think, you know, redo story. Really give Guild Wars 2's end the send-off it deserves in terms of the personal story, because it starts quite strong and then it just sort of melts away, as I think a lot of people came to appreciate, which sucks.
It's a shame because the dungeon was actually good. I enjoyed the dungeon a lot.
Yeah.
Just that ending part was just like, oh, okay, bye Zhaitan.
Do you remember the funny thing as well was, like, a couple of months after the game launched, they had a patch note that was like, we have improved the Zhaitan fight or something. It was like, we fixed a bug that stopped some Zhaitan mechanics. And I haven't played it since then. Like, I did it the first time I played it and it was fine, but I've not actually gone and fought Zhaitan a second time. I feel like the longer I wait without doing it, the more my mind can romanticize how good it really was. But apparently all they changed was they just added like a couple of little tar creatures come and attack you, and you can like one-shot them. And so literally you have to step off the cannon for a second, you kill them, and then you get back on and resume pressing 2.
They just make something tedious very annoying now. So tedious and annoying.
No, it's not annoying. It's just as trivial as the original fight was. It's just this tiny thing. And what's weird to me, you know, it wouldn't be noteworthy except for the fact that one of these devs went back to add that small thing in, right? That someone was still looking at a Ra, and like this was the answer to everybody's criticism, and obviously it wasn't. But it's really curious to me that it's like, if you're going to make a change, at least make it substantial. Don't make it a tiny little one, and then, you know, hope that provide some large fix, which maybe they weren't doing. Maybe they were just doing what little they could. And it was a very basic thing, that like an on-off switch, and it was just off and it should have been on, and then they can just make it slightly more interesting. But you know, that was always funny for me to see that there was this update that just did nothing to the Zhaitan fight.
All right, well, let's move on to let's
get back to the real topic. You're gonna move us back to the actual thing we're supposed to be talking about.
Yeah, exactly, because this is gonna happen often, and that's what I said to people in the beginning. I said it's probably gonna happen. It's gonna be Wood and Potatoes. It's gonna be me. I'm gonna go off, and I'm gonna be talking about something totally different. I might even talk about other games. I don't know. Like, I gotta stay on topic though. All right.
So Cube World.
Yeah, Cube World. Oh gosh. We still need to do a series on that. All right. So we both had kind of the same thoughts of them releasing content every 2 weeks, and the content being not really meaty, as what people call meat and potatoes, and you know, it would be like just a piece of candy. Yeah, it just like just to hold you until something big comes out, right? And the result was them getting 4 teams, and now each team has about 8 weeks, right? If it's 2 weeks. Every time they release it, they have 8 weeks to make bigger, better content, as Colin Johansson said. So you think this is really enough? I think this is enough because, I mean, before, what did we get? Something every month? It used to be like every 2 months, and then every month, and then it moved down to every 2 weeks. So 8 weeks is 2 months to work on something very juicy. That would be good, and they already have it mapped out of permanent things that we want to put into the game, and what we're getting this patch as well.
I think originally, both in terms of the devs themselves and the community, we didn't really know what we were going to expect from the Living Story. And that very early Flame and Frost stuff, they only had one team working on it, and it was an uphill battle for them. They had to fully, write out everything they were going to do, actually create it, and implement it all on their own very quickly. And now, it's like you say, they've got the 4 teams, and I'm actually a lot more optimistic about it, because the other thing a lot of people, even if you're someone that didn't like the Zephyr Sanctum, for example, which is quite a substantial content update, there's a lot there, and they were really quite clever. They made this most recent Living Story update about the election still interact with the previous Living Story update. So like, we've got 3 things going on in our Living Story tab, so it all kind of melds together. But even if you're the kind of person that found the Zephyr Sanctum an entirely new zone with a lot of new interesting mechanics, a nice blend of regular Guild Wars 2 gameplay and sort of jumping puzzle-ish, platforming into one area, even if you thought that wasn't substantial with the race, the team that made that still didn't have the full fruit the fruit of 8 weeks worth of labor.
Yeah.
They've said we still haven't actually seen an update that's been made by a team that's had the full 8 weeks. So we still don't know what the absolute upper limit is that these teams are going to be delivering to us. Very shortly, we will see what that upper limit is. And if it's more substantial than the Zephyr Sanctum, which I'm already happy with, I think a lot of people are going to be quite pleased with. And then, as it continues to roll out, we're going to have that full substantial 8 weeks worth of effort from one team directly after another 8 weeks of effort, directly after another and another and another. So we will just have it constantly rolling out. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about it. I don't think it's so piecemeal and bite-sized anymore. And while I think that the game definitely needs a large feature somewhere on the horizon to just make the community in general feel excited about Guild Wars 2, like on a large scale, these living story updates, they are very substantial. I mean, have you been finding it hard keeping up with them at all?
For me, I never really cared about the living story, right? Ever since the beginning, I just like, it's not really for me, especially if the story's not grabbing me as much. And I really more, I'm the type of player, you know, I just want to get my rewards and now get my achievements, because now they added in this whole achievement system. I like the past updates. I think the past updates were good. The mini games were actually different, and
dude,
I don't know, they seem
survival.
Yes, man, the best thing ever, man. I'm telling you, and I'm glad it's permanent now. Now they're already adding in this patch a cycle through the sprint, the South Sun survival, crab toss, which I don't care about crab. I care about crab toss and cake brawl. Which is
for people that don't know, what they're doing is every day now, one of the daily achievements is going to be one of those activities, and they're actually going to rotate the activities in and out. So the activities are a permanent part of Guild Wars 2, and at the same time, they're sort of ensuring there's always going to be an active player base. The problem with, they've got loads of mini games now, but the problem with having them all in permanently as a part of the game is the community would be so dilute. It would be kind of, there wouldn't be much fun playing them. So I think they had a really good solution there to basically just rotate it through as a part of the daily. And you know, every day there's going to be one of these mini games going on, and there's going to be people playing it, and you can enjoy it with those people. I mean, the mini games, it still sucks you can't play with your friends, like. Wouldn't South Sun Survival be amazing if you could go in with your whole guild? All right, so how cool would that be?
What happened with me, I got a chance to play with my guild with another 3 people inside of the same match. Ooh. And we'll just gang up together and just start killing everybody. I mean, even then, like, the excitement level was just so high. You know, because sometimes what would happen is there's still PvP. It's still... you can still damage your friends. So if they get in the way for your sniper shot, they're going to get beamed in the face. And that's what happened. That's what happened. I was trying to protect my friend, and he goes and picks up something right in front of me, and he sees me charging up the shot. Boom! In the face. All right? He gets killed, and then the other guy shoots me because he was charging up the same time as I was. And I was like, oh, great. We just lost everything. Oh man, it was just so fun. And what would happen is we'll be on Mumble, and there'll be they'll die already, right? And I'll be alive, and they'll follow me with their wisp form or whatever like that. And they'll tell me if, like, oh, this guy's collecting a lot of blue little gem things, he's gonna do a carca bomb on you, you're gonna die. You know, be careful, keep moving or whatever. And we always like work together, and it was just fun. Even if we're against each other, it's still fun. That's probably the best mini game.
I think as well, a lot of people, isn't there kind of word that the reason why you can't do that is because there's just problems on Arena's end with servers?
Yeah, but there's some type of code thing. They have to like redo the whole thing in order to get it to work.
Yeah, I mean, with that said though, I always sort of thought it could be intentional, because the mini games are meant to be kind of casual, just fun little, often PvP encounters. If you let people match in with their teams, then you will get these incredibly overpowered teams of 5 people in voice comms, like running all together in one like specifically tiered party for whatever that mini game happens to be, and that could ruin the enjoyment of a lot of other people who are just trying to do it quite casually.
Well, they can also separate it as well. They have, oh, if you want to be in a team, if you want to gain a party, you go into this section, you click this tab.
And that's true.
And you can separate it. Because, I mean, it's the same thing with Sanctum Sprint. Like, I want to sprint with my guildies and have like a guild event. You know, there's so many ways you can have guild events with these mini games, and I think they should have that. All they have to do is separate it.
And it's interesting, actually. You say that they should separate it. They are working on infrastructure on the PvP side right now to have separate team and solo queues. And
which they're adding in this patch. Good segue.
Well, not even because of the segue, but you know, that could just be a sign that, well, look, they've done it for PvP. It's just going to be one more step to add it to the mini games, and then yeah, you're right. Then maybe we can queue in with our friends, and we'll have the separate queues for the mini games. I don't know. Again, you've got to be very careful with diluting the players, because if it does become too dilute, then everywhere just feels like a ghost town. Right. That's the problem with instancing a lot of them, which is kind of weird as well. Actually, this is a good segue, because one of the other new mini games that they're putting out, this patch that's coming out, the description makes it sound like it's not going to be instance. Hold on, where is it? It says
which one, the Gauntlet or the
the Queen's Gauntlet. In the special Queen's Gauntlet, you will face increasingly difficult challenges of single combat against unique bosses. Cheer on your friends or show off your skills to the world. Now, what does that mean? How is that going to work if that's an instance? Do you get 20 people in a single instance and nobody can play until the one guy in the arena's finished? Or is it a mini game that can be played largely anywhere in the real world, in the persistent world?
Oh, so like watch how custom brawl, meaning
like Belcher's Bluff or something like that, but maybe on sort of a larger scale. See, I'm not sure how that's going to work. I guess that's my thing with this. It sounds like it's going to be a persistent minigame that you can play in the actual world. But how can they possibly do that? Single combat against unique bosses? It sounds like it should be an instance thing. So that's kind of weird. And any thoughts on it?
Yeah, because I saw this and I thought about Guild Wars 1 when back in the days when I was trying to get my 30 points or trying to get 50 points.
Holy crap, yeah.
Right, and I wish I did 50 points now because, man, each tier is like 50 achievement points. Holy crap.
No. I don't think it is it? I think it's just 50 points for everything.
No. It's 50 points for each tier.
Are you sure? I'm pretty sure it's not.
Yeah, 10, 15, 20, whatever. Yeah,
it lists it all separate. Okay, all right. I'll buy it then. I thought it was one achievement point for every Hall of Monument point. Is sort of the way that they did it. Because I always felt mega gypped. But yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, like I actually kind of interested in the unique bosses when you said it. I was like, oh, okay, this might be actually kind of fun.
Yeah, and that ties in as well. I'm totally moving off of your point here, but that ties in as well with the unique bosses. If they're champions that are designed to be soloable, which is sort of a bit of an oxymoron because champions are meant to be sort of group fighting things. But if they are champions, then that's going to key in quite nicely to the big champion updates they're doing. That hopefully is gonna shake up the way people earn money in the game, because really you got farming Koth at the moment, which they're changing, and you've also got running around doing meta events around the world again, which could now be overshadowed by going for champions. There's so many champions in the game, dude. There's so many champions. This could spread people out like mad.
And guilds can just kind of group up together and just kind of, I don't know, go on raids. Is this the raid system that Guild Wars 2 is trying to aim for? Because that's been a rumor.
That's guild missions. Guild missions are Guild Wars 2's raids. Puzzles feel a lot like raids.
Well, actually, people have rumored a Guild Wars 2 style of raids, and like a developer as well, like saying that we're doing a Guild Wars style of raids, and this might be like it always seems that Guild Wars 2 implements like the ground floor and always builds on top of things, right? And that's what they've been been doing.
And on that point, I bet if they are actually going for this, they are just rumors. But if they are gonna go for much more heavy raid style, traditional raid style content, they will probably key it into. I've used that term twice now, but they'll probably add it in through the guild mission system. It will probably be okay. You've got bounties, you've got rushes, you've got treks, you've got puzzles, challenges, and then they'll be like, I don't know whether they'll call them raids specifically, but they might add another tier on top, or like just beyond puzzles. You know what I mean? That's where I think it would best fit into the Guild Wars 2 experience if they were going to do that.
I don't know, like with guilds.
But it's your guild that does a raid typically.
See, the thing is, if someone doesn't have a guild and they just play with a
Then
group of friends. Yeah. Well, some people don't want to be around certain people. It's hard to find a guild that you can really fit
you're
into.
an antisocial person playing an MMO. Well, then that's the problem with the game. That's the
well,
problem
what
with
if
the
you don't
person.
have that many friends? You see what I'm saying?
It's very easy to make. Then again, that's a problem with a person. You can't make friends. What? You ArenaNet have to make their game.
Yeah,
crappy for
I'm
you?
looking out for the little guy. I'm pretty
the
sure.
little guy.
I'm pretty sure.
I know what
people
you're
have.
saying, but
Yeah.
and a lot of people do bring that up. But I do think, you know, especially Guild Wars 2, as a game where you can be in multiple guilds, if you want to play with just a couple of your own, like 5 friends or so, and you're all in a guild together, that's cool. You can multi-guild. Nobody's stopping you from doing that. And I've always maintained, if your guild leader is stopping you from being in multiple guilds at once, then he's sort of an asshole. Like, it's not a big deal, right? For me, anyway, it's not a big deal to just go into another guild if you want to participate in that large content. And you can be there with your 5 best friends, and, you know, then you've got... So what if you've got 1,000 others running around you? It's an MMO, you have that anyway when you're fighting the Shatterer. You don't see people complaining that they can't kill the Shatterer with just their closest buddies, do you? They don't mind that there's a whole Zerg of people there. It's sort of the same thing, just in a different environment, for me.
Right. Just to, you know, give like the ground floor, because I don't think we kind of all over the place. All right, so now they're adding.
That's the way to do it. That's the way to do it.
That's the way to do it. So hopefully people have actually read the Queen's Jubilee, at least you know, briefly, so you guys know exactly what we're talking about. Yeah. What we were talking about before, all champions have loot bags now that they drop, guaranteed to drop, and they'll have like skill points. They'll have rare materials. They'll have, I don't know, roadstones, new skins that someone corrected me on my video saying that
what about the rapiers?
Yeah, the little purple swords that this person has, like it's part of the unique skins that are in those bags, which is great. And I think it's like good incentive to go kill some champions, right? Definitely good.
It's one of those weird things, right? Playing the game at launch, it was kind of funny because there were all these stupid little things that were kind of annoying about playing Guild Wars 2 at launch. You'd kill a champion and you wouldn't have guaranteed chance at loot. You'd get barely anything. It was really unrewarding. And now with this champion update, it's another one of those little things that sort of adds to pile. And I kind of think to myself, wow, if I was only just playing Guild Wars 2, if I just picked up the game now, this is another little quality of life thing I'd probably really enjoy, because someone who now just comes into Guild Wars 2, they're going to kill one of those Queensdale champions, and they are going to feel rewarded for it, and it's going to be that extra thing, and they're probably going to have that wide-eyed moment where they're like, oh my god, look at this cool stuff I just got. I think that's really awesome. I'm really happy that those tiny little things are going in, because it's just one of those small things that adds up, you know. A lot of people don't think, I think, you know, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of the time, us as a community in general, people that, you know, do content about the game, a lot of us don't really think about that potential still new audience, those people that could just be coming in. We're just thinking about sort of high-end rewards, whether it's good that we get more ascended stuff or whatever. But you do have to consider a lot of these changes as well are benefiting entirely new players, which can only be good for the game overall, right? It's going to be more enticing for them to come in, and
this is what happens when people kind of jump the gun, like you know. And I mean, we've expressed what we disliked about Guild Wars 2 many times, about the living story, stuff like that. But people kind of jump the gun and say, oh, you know, Guild Wars 2, it's just like, you know, they're not doing anything,
Ascended
blah, blah,
stuff
blah.
broke the game, blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
this is doing this, doing that. When, you know, now they're adding in all of these, you know, these things that need to be added in. As the game is released, it's kind of, when the game is released, it's kind of bare bones, right? And over time, MMO will add in the things that it's missing, like solo queue for PvP and, you know, bonus rewards here and there. You know, now when you, if people have read the Looking Ahead, you get a lot of rewards for just completing dungeons and jumping puzzles and supply camps and stuff like that. They're adding a bunch of rewards for a lot of things to give incentive to do things instead of just not getting anything, you know, for it. You know, there has to be a certain level of fun, and has to be a certain level of reward as well, because some people do this because it's fun, and some people do that because they get a good reward from it. People running cough is not necessarily, you know, fun. It's good because it gets you money a lot, right? You know.
See, it's funny as well, because like running cough I've never really been into that much, but recently I kind of got into a bit of a group, I guess. I haven't really ran it all that much at all. I'm still a bit of a newbie with it, but I started doing it, and you know, in that environment, I find it really fun. I quite enjoy a bit of grind here and there. I've got to be honest. I do like a bit of grind. But the thing is with KOF is, if you've got like an actual team doing it, you're constantly trying to better yourselves and get faster and faster. And the gameplay itself in KOF is far more engaging than it would be in freaking... It's the same thing over and over and over again, but it's way more engaging than being a part of a massive Zerg and auto-attacking the Shatterer with massive skill lag. And, you know, KOF's good for other things, I think. You know, I quite like to be a bit of a contrarian about KOF, because KOF is 5-man parties, and yes, you have to subscribe to this horrible gear check Zerker warrior culture if you really want to party and pug for it easily. But at the end of the day, once you're in there, you are meeting new people in a more intimate environment than you would in large meta events, and you get to chatting to people. And I find myself way more social and way more engaged in the game when I was running KOF than I was ever out in the metas. And there's a lot of people quite deeply into that scene right now who are really sad that ArenaNet are saying, no, you can't do this anymore. Now, I agree that you shouldn't be able to do it anymore because the amount of actual gold it generates for the game is way too high, and that's what's contributing to all of the inflation on legendary weapons. But I do think it will be nice if, once ArenaNet implements their change here, we still have some kind of very repeatable 5-man content like that people can still enjoy and be competitive about.
From what I understand about this, your daily reward, you give a bonus daily reward depending on how long and difficult the dungeon was. Well, between 1 and 3 gold for explorable and 15 silver for story, which I don't know, it's story. They're switching
cool to
the
see
boss.
People running that though as well. Like, I was just saying, story isn't renewable dungeons. It sort of is if they add a reward like that, or a good one.
Yeah, 30 silver. I mean, 50 silver. That's not too bad. If you could run it once, and especially if it's easy. But yeah. And also, they're taking away the gold from the bosses, right? And adding in this new loot bag, champion loot bag, right? Which could be good or bad. You get a certain amount of silver from bosses, but you never know. From a champion loot bag, you might get a lodestone that's worth a couple gold and make that thing worth it. So
have you done all the dungeons in the game?
Yeah, I think at least once.
Okay. What do you think about a 3 gold reward for something like Arar Path 4, which is the hardest dungeon and the longest path in the game? I don't know if you remember doing that.
Yeah, it takes hours. I did that on the stream because people forced me to, and
wow,
and it was long and hard. I wouldn't do it for 3 gold. I wouldn't. Yeah. I wouldn't do it for 3 gold. 3 gold is not a big incentive to do that long dungeon. It's just absolutely dreadful. Just you're just like banging nails into your skull, man. So
I wonder whether they've been a little bit short-sighted with that. Or, on the other hand, I can't think of too many examples. I think 3 gold would be quite nice imbursement for a lot of those paths. I think, 3 gold, if they're quite nice about which paths and which dungeons give you the 3 gold, then actually, this could be a good update. But mainly, I think, if they're not being short-sighted about it, that could be more evidence that they're just going to totally redo Arar at some point. That, they'll say, don't worry about it. Yeah, you'll get 3 gold, but we're still not expecting anyone to run Arar Path 4. Even the shortest Arar paths can be quite long, especially if it's your first time going through them. I found that interesting. Yeah, they've given us these gold rewards, but that's not going to be incentive for every dungeon and every path in the game, which might be too much to ask, I suppose, but it's definitely something I noticed about the rewards, that it just didn't seem like enough to me.
It's all about the rewards. It's all about the rewards. I mean, all right. This is an example I gave in a past video was when I cut a tree in RuneScape, or when I grind a character in MapleStory. The reason why I did it is because you gain a level, and at that level you get to do more stuff. The rewards benefited your grinding. It's like, oh man, I have to get to the next level because I'm gonna get this humongous reward. It's all about the rewards, and if they kind of balance that out, especially with Arar, I would never touch Arar again after farming it for my gear.
That's the thing, it's so weird with Guild Wars 2, because I do think the combat and the gameplay itself that you experience while you're playing the game is incredibly strong and engaging, but despite the fact it's way less static than many other MMOs, people are still only motivated by the rewards. And I find it really interesting that this blog post we're talking about, where they outline all their high-level stuff for 2013, what are they talking about? The entire blog post, right? It's not content that's coming, and yes, they were trying to avoid living story stuff, and they weren't going to mention that. It was more high-level changes for Guild Wars 2, but it is very telling of the way MMOs are, and particularly Guild Wars 2, is that every single damn paragraph, that entire thing is, here's how we're going to start rewarding you for this, we're going to start rewarding you for this, we're going to start rewarding you for this. It's all rewards, and that's crazy to me. I think, you know, the one thing that Guild Wars 2 really lacks is players only care about the rewards, because they've made it so hard for players to care about the story. There's very few people that invested in the story, and that's what really irks me about a lot of these high-level changes. I think they're doing a lot of great stuff with the game, but we are now playing a game, and we are indoctrinated in this culture for Guild Wars 2, where people just want to hear about how they can get more shinies and more skins and more gold and quickly, you know, and not necessarily, well, no, and in more fun ways. It's how can we get these rewards, but in more varied and fun ways.
I mean, I would love to see an awesome story revolve around like a new dungeon or a new area, and like maybe in this new area, there's a bunch of dynamic event chains, all right? Some big dynamic meta event chain that has story in it, and then it takes you into the dungeon, which kind of happened in Living Story before. And that would be great, you know? And the stories revolved around the whole area, you know? And everything ties up into it, yeah.
Yeah, here's the thing, right? Bioshock Infinite just had a DLC announced for it, which takes place in Rapture.
Right.
People who played Bioshock Infinite are incredibly excited about that DLC because they want to play through it. And what do they want to play through it for? Just the experience of playing the game and experiencing that story, the new areas that they can go to. They don't care about getting a shiny thing at the end, right? And everyone's still excited anyway. If Guild Wars 2 announced, all right, we're adding this extra chunk of story, perhaps in a new region even, but they specifically sort of they say nothing to the effect of any rewards at the same time. Our community is now at a point where I think a lot of people would be bitching about it, and they'd say, "Oh, what's the point? There's no rewards there anyway." And that's a really sad state to be in. I guess that's my observation.
A good point.
That's my observation about it. And you know, you said it yourself, and I'm a part of it too. You know, I don't claim to be standing out of it. I am more motivated by rewards, very much so, a lot more than many other people, I think, because a lot of people question, this is a good segue, right? A lot of people question the Ascended gear that's coming into the game, you know, this idea of having more Ascended gear, the Ascended armor, and they're like, oh no, I really don't like this idea. Actually, on the other hand, I really want that because I play it all the time, and I'm like, yeah.
Right. Some people think Ascended gear is like a gear treadmill, which is just not true. It's just another tier of armor, and they're saying, oh, all the money I spent on exotics is going to be worthless now. Why even get exotics now? Exotics are still tough. Exotics are still good to the game. Ascended gear, I think, is for the people who really want to go that extra mile, which is kind of needed in this game. I'm sorry, there's only so much casual stuff they can release every month, and they've been dedicating casual patches for I don't know, 4 months now. Okay, it's time to get back to the hardcore people who actually play this game, and that the hardcore people is what, I don't know, keeps coming back. I mean, really, Guild Wars 2 doesn't really have that many social options. I've never seen such a social MMO like MapleStory. Like, I meet random people all the time, and not to say Guild Wars 2 doesn't do that, but you know, because I do meet random people, you know, on dungeon runs and stuff like that, and people who know the channel. But that's because I run a YouTube channel. Yeah, but
most people are quite quiet for sure. Yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
On the idea of like all the bitching that people do about Ascended gear, I think all of the arguments that, oh, all of my exotic stuff's going to be useless, all these people are concerned that they won't be able to get in groups because everyone's going to say, oh, you need full Ascended stuff. But there's never, okay, here's why I think a lot of these arguments just fall flat. And not entirely flat, but they do fall rather flat. Because there has never been any plans, and there's no sign of any plans for ArenaNet to actually add a real gear check system to the game, right? You can ping stuff to people, and you can request that someone has to ping all of their gear before you can go on their cough run. And we do see that happening. But outside of that, there's really very little way for people to discriminate amongst themselves in a PvE environment based on gear, because you can't right click someone's name and say look at gear like you can in a lot of other games. ArenaNet do that really deliberately because it shoots a lot of the gear check culture that could potentially arise in the head before it even starts. Because people are crippled, they are reliant on the actual person willing to join the group to reciprocate, to say, okay, yeah, I will ping all my stuff. And yeah, it'll become a problem when people do it en masse, but this is one reason why I'm really not that worried about them adding Ascended gear and in like 18 months adding something above Ascended. I'm not that worried about it because they're not going to add a real gear check thing. The content itself at its base level is balanced to be completed by hell rare stuff, let alone exotic. So there's not going to be a hard requirement from ArenaNet with new content saying you have to have Ascended or above to be able to complete this stuff. The only requirement's going to come from the community, and the community can't police itself very well because ArenaNet aren't adding a gear check. So that's kind of my opinion on the Ascended stuff. I'm a player that plays the game a lot. I want more gear. I want more things to go for, so I'm down for it, and I'm not worried about that gear check culture, even if I was someone that might fall prey to it because I don't have enough time to play the game.
And just to mention, they said that they don't want a gear treadmill, right? Every 3 to 6 months they add another gear. They're not going to do that because that's what a gear treadmill is. I mean, in WoW, like you have, I mean, they're far up there. They're far up there. They have so many gears, and the stats are just like in the thousands, you know?
One new tier that is slowly rolled out. First, just two accessories, then just a back piece, then just an amulet, then just earrings, and then finally armor. That's rolled out really slowly over like an entire year's worth of time. Is not a gear treadmill. I feel like a lot of what we're talking about was really relevant back. I got so disheartened with the community, dude, when the Karka stuff first came out and we first heard about Ascended gear. Like, this was all so obvious, yet people cried anyway. It's not. So yeah, I mean, yes, finally we're finishing off our Ascended stuff this patch. Is it really that big news for the game? Is it a reason for people to start bitching again? I don't think so. This isn't any more revolutionary or different to what we've seen with any other piece of the accessories coming out, right? We're on the same page about that, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's Ascended gear. It just gives something else for someone to I don't know, not farm, but aim to. All those people who got their legendary that they wanted and stuff like that. It added another tier for that. And I don't know. They haven't released the stats yet. So we don't know how like better they are. Because really, like, I don't know. Some stats tend to not really matter much unless people are like really doing their math to a T. You know, if the stats could be really a small difference when it comes down to power and everything like that when you really add it up. In Guild Wars 2, it's kind of changing. I mean, definitely a better weapon would help. To
be fair, the difference between having one piece of Ascended gear and a full set of Ascended gear is quite a big jump. And to be fair, the difference between adding just a back piece and now adding 6 slots at the same time is a big difference. But in the grand scheme of things, it's like I said, ArenaNet themselves aren't creating new enemies in the game that can only be beaten by full Ascended groups. So it's not going to be a problem in the first place.
All right, so the last 2 things we could talk about is PvP solo queue. We kind of mentioned it when we were talking. And, of course, the account wallets, which we should probably mention first. Basically, all your currencies, right? When you log into your characters for the first time, all your currencies are going to go into this account-wide wallet, right? And it's going to hold your fractal relics, your badges of honor, your gems, your glory, your guild accommodations, laurels, karma, dungeon tokens, everything, right? And I think it's a good addition to the game, definitely. Because
it's funny. Yeah. Guild Wars 2 is the consumable game. Guild Wars 2 is, there's another, currency game. Oh, there's another currency. There's another currency. There's another currency.
Right.
Every patch, we're adding a new currency to the game. A lot of people in my guild constantly go on about how much that annoys them. And I think, it's a legit concern when it comes to bank space, and this will be cool for that. I've never really had that much of a problem with it. It will be nice. Particularly, I find it interesting now that all currency is going to be across all characters, right? Once the patch goes out, you log into each of your characters and it all just sort of gets assimilated into this one wallet that goes across all your account. So that's actually going to make some things redundant. Like storing gold specifically in your bank to swap from one character to another. That's a thing of the past. Like, I don't have too much to say on this, but that's interesting. Like, we even have a title, right? The golden title. which I guess they'll have to update because now you're never going to be depositing in the bank at all.
Right.
It'll probably just be total gold in your wallet, I suppose. But I mean, it's a nice quality of life thing, right? I mean, what else is there to it?
You're never gonna know, if you have like 2 gold missing on one of the characters. Everything is in one place, which is great. I am a person which I have no bank space, and especially with the new account, the account achievement system, I have a lot of badges of honor in my bank space.
Yeah.
So I need to get those things out.
Here's what will be funny when they do the wallet, but you can only hold 1 stack of this stuff. So it's 1 stack of KOF tokens.
I swear, come on, like seriously, in the bank, collectibles, everything, they need to add more than 1 stack. Why not? Do it some way in the UI. I know you can do it. Just make it more than 1 stack, because it's ridiculous, man.
When it's in your inventory, it stacks at 250, but when it's in your bank and your wallet, it should stack higher. Something like that.
Yeah, definitely. All right, PvP solo queue. All right, and of course the leaderboards are going to be separate from the team queue as well. So I don't know. I feel like this is gonna be cool. This is gonna be good for streamers as well who are playing by themselves. Kind of like League of Legends, which I mentioned before. Like they always say, "Oh, solo queue." Yeah, it's gonna be weird to actually see that for Guild Wars 2. If there are any Guild Wars 2 PvP streamers left, other than the main ones that they have now for the casting.
For players like me, basically, that don't have whole solid teams but do play a lot. I love to duo queue. I love to trio queue. And now, 100% of the time, if I try and duo with my friend or trio with a couple of friends, we're always going to be going against high pre-mades or other people who duo and trio. Or that's what it sounds like. We're never going to get those more ragtag, randomly assigned together teams that we'd now only find in the solo arena. I think that might be slightly punishing to people, but overall, it's a minor concern. The other thing that I'd really like to see them do is reset the existing leaderboards. And I know some people will be annoyed, but frankly, the PvP leaderboards right now are so volatile anyway. Anyone that's high at the top can get high to the top straight away very quickly. And the main reason I say that is it's been tracking win-losses on the main leaderboards right now for a long time. And all those solo queuers that have been constantly going against pre-mades and stuff all have really low win-loss rates, which it would be nice to have that reset for the main team arena, the team queue leaderboards. It would be nice to have that reset so that it doesn't look like you've been playing with a full pre-made and you've only won 60% of your games or something. Because that's always been a big difference. The people right at the top are like on 90% win ratios, and it's because they never solo queue. And now there's that distinction. I think this will help as well a lot of people on the high end who are like, oh, I'm top 10, but I can't ever PvP unless all my friends are on. And now they're like, oh, I'm top 10 on one leaderboard, but I can go back to the solo queue in the meantime. Right. Instead of like hot joining, which is just mind-numbingly boring. So yeah, it's a nice quality of life thing for PvP. I've got tons of opinions on what PvP needs. That wouldn't be too high for me on the list, but it's a good one, and I'm glad they're putting it in. It's a nice part of the patch for sure.
All right. Anyways, guys, this is it. I don't know. It was kind of long, right? I like doing this because you did this in one of your videos because your videos are extremely long.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. My videos are like 3 minutes each.
Yeah, right.
3 to 5. I don't think I've put out a video of that length in like 2 years. There might be one somewhere.
What, an hour? Oh, you mean 3 minutes?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
There's no way, dude. I haven't seen any of your videos below like 20 minutes in a while. Anyway, say, I watched. No. Say, what's a safe word? What's a good word? Pumpkins, sweet potatoes.
Pumpkin? Why pumpkins? What goes on in
That's
your
the
head?
first thing that came to mind.
What the hell? It's not Halloween.
Say Ritlock in your comment down if you watch the whole thing. So I know how many people.
How are they going to shoehorn Ritlock in?
Just put it in. Ritlock has no pants. I don't know. Put it in there.
Wow. I don't think he does actually.
Actually, hold up. I have a statue. Oh, he's actually wearing bandages. Like he doesn't really have a. Wow.
I'm looking at my statue too. Yeah.
We have bandages. Anyways. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let us know what you want us to talk about, and we'll probably have like a section in this podcast form for like viewer questions and stuff like that. I don't know if I would have necessarily labeled it a podcast, but I don't know. It's just something fun that we can actually just sit down, relax, and just talk for like an hour or less, maybe. I don't know. This kind of went long. It's kind of went long. I mean, well, you know, this is for a select few anyway who actually want to hear us just blubber on about something in Guild Wars 2. Anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Any lasting thoughts, VisualWood?
Don't call me you can call me VisualWood if you like. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Stay visual. All right.
You sound like a cartoon character.